Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Health and Long-Term Care. Almost 15 years ago, the Romano Report identified an inverse care law for rural and remote communities. It says people in rural communities have poorer health status and greater needs for primary health care, yet they are not as well served and have more difficulty accessing health services than people in urban areas. Speaker, does the minister accept this fact? And if so, will he reject any proposal to take long-term care beds out of rural Ontario, where many homes already have long waiting lists? And does the minister agree that simplistic so-called bed ratios don't tell the full story?
Thank you. Minister of Health and Long-Term Care.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think there are so many parts to that and so many questions I was asked. I'm not sure if it's wise for me to. I think I'll say yes to the first part, which was the evidence, the science in terms of disparities that exist, which are well acknowledged, and the social determinants of health that are often behind that. In fact, there's an HQO report that came out recently looking at that situation in the northern part of this province. But the other pieces, I'm just not sure how I should declare myself. Maybe he'll be more specific in the supplementary. But certainly it points to the importance of the investment that we made this year that party regrettably voted against, of a 3.1% increase to the operating budget of our hospitals, Mr. Speaker, to an $11 billion cumulative increase in our health care budget over the next 3 years. Significant investment as well in long-term care, including important elements like the food allocation, Mr. Speaker, and I'm curious as to the supplementary where this might be going.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Thank you, Speaker. Hillside Manor near Sebringville is slated to close. This government is considering a proposal to move as many as 50 long-term care beds to London, and we still don't know what will happen to Hillside's remaining 40 beds. If London needs more beds, give them more beds, but don't drag us down to the lowest common denominator. At my constituency office, the phones are ringing, emails are pouring in. Municipalities are writing letters and passing resolutions. They are totally opposed to this bed transfer, and they want to be heard. Will this government listen?
Thank you. Minister.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate the clarity from the member opposite. And because I recall, I know that he's written to me on this subject, the subject of Hillside Manor, and he knows as a result of that exchange that no decision has been made, Mr. Speaker, with regards to the balance or the allocation or any potential moving of licenses or long-term care beds, including for Hillside. What has begun, as is required under the law, Mr. Speaker, as we look to redevelop 30,000 long-term care beds across this province to provide greater support and greater care, that it's required that long-term home operators that they consult with the community. In fact, I explicitly asked, which is likely how the member found out, that the long-term care operator specifically consult with the local members of provincial parliament as well as other leadership, local leaders. That's the process that's been undertaken. Is that appropriate community consultation? No decisions have been taken.